So it's been almost a month since Valtan released, and Vicus is quickly on the way. So I just wanted to make a video and just kind of like talk about my impressions and opinions of Valtan after I played through normal and hard mode a few times. And the questions that I want to ask are like, does Valtan really live up to the reputation that it's been given by the community in other regions? And I would say I certainly think so. I think that the raid is really, really good. What about the raid at a fundamental level though, just on its mechanics and phases? I also think that it's a pretty good fight, but I'm looking forward to fights that bring more variety to the pacing and level of coordination to the raiding in Lost Ark. I think I want to start by talking about why I think Valtan is especially enjoyable for not only Lost Ark players in general, but both veteran and new raiders. For someone playing Lost Ark and being relatively new to raiding in an MMO, I feel like Valtan really knocks it out of the park when it comes to introducing an individual to the joys of raiding. Especially so if you're doing this experience with a group of friends and people close to you where you can focus on having fun and working together. The entire experience, I think, begins with an encounter that focuses significantly more on boss moves that reward reacting to telegraphs. This is more true of Gate 2 than Gate 1, but both gates greatly reduce the amount of chip damage a boss does over the course of the fight, which I think is super annoying. The Valtan gates largely have moves doing mostly shieldable damage incidentally, and then much larger punishing damage if you fail to read the telegraph and react appropriately, which I prefer a lot more. This style of attack, I think, highlights more of the strengths of Lost Ark's combat systems, both for how classes output damage, as well as how classes defend against damage either through evasion, shielding, using super armor, and then even with like staggering and counters, which are probably the community favorite. I think all of this provides a refreshing sense of purpose and direction for a Lost Ark player, especially if they're just diving into the combat system. It gives them an easy indication for if they're doing something successfully or not, making it very rewarding for them to learn the boss's attacks and get more familiar with it with each pull. From a rating perspective at the base level, Valtan has a good amount of what I would consider entry-level raiding coordination. For example, assigning raid members to tasks. Are you picking up orbs? Are you counter 1, 2, or 3? How are you positioning to bait the charges? I feel like these mechanics over the duration of the Valtan fight really lay the groundwork for a newer player to begin feeling the impact of team coordination in strategy and positioning and execution. But it isn't too complicated, right? It's meaningful to be aware of the boss's attacks and how your raid group is responding to them. With all that considered, I feel like we have to address one of the most notable qualities of the Valtan fight, which is, on top of the nature of having no resurrection when you die, the stage becomes smaller and you run the risk of being knocked off for a one-hit kill. This really is reminiscent of Titan EX for those old school Final Fantasy XIV raiders. Valtan creates an escalating execution pressure that just ups the stakes on the previously mentioned telegraphs and responding to attacks and stuff like that. But more appropriately, I feel like this is a major contributor for what will almost assuredly be an incredibly edge-of-the-seat first-time clear experience. This, I feel like, will definitely knock the socks off of most Lost Ark players, especially if they are new to raiding. Almost every new raider's experience in Lost Ark with their first Legion raid completion in Valtan will just be like 1 or 2 members of the raid left, clutching it out in the ghost phase. You're avoiding attacks, you're countering, you're looking super flashy, and you might even dip into the enrage phase, and then you finish the fight with the mechanic that's unique to Legion raids, which is those sidereals. You're summoning Thyrain to beat up the boss when you need it the most. Everything here is designed to be awe-inspiring and to be the biggest adrenaline rush straight to the end of the fight. I feel like it's not a surprise that having an experience like that as a welcome to Legion raids is going to be game-changing for a lot of players. Especially if you're not familiar with kind of like the coordination and excitement of raiding in an MMO, you would be completely blown away. So, what about the experienced raiders and the players who are used to this stuff? Well, to put it simply, I feel like doing Valtan well can look and feel really impressive, and especially if you're an upper performing player in your group. As the raid progresses, more and more of the weight is put on your shoulders as people are dead and just watching you play. More and more of that weight is put on your shoulders as a surviving member to carry the raid to completion. I think this is like super satisfying to players who are experienced because of the recognition they can garner from playing well and being able to carry the raid. And then the fact that the ghost phase sets the enraged timer to Valtan to a specific time, and then Thirain does like a big chunk of damage, makes it very realistic to solo or duo the fight at the end. Even if your gear levels are like really close to being on level or just a bit higher. And then being able to do that in the enraged phase, obviously, I think experienced players really feel the agency of their skill in that fight. Not everything, I think, about Valtan is perfect, though. I think the fight is incredibly fun. It's really adrenaline pumping. However, personally, I feel like if most of the fights in the Legion raids are like Valtan, I would be a bit disappointed. I don't think it's anything that Valtan has done poorly per se, but I think if all the fights were to be similar, I don't think the experience would be as rewarding. I feel like there are some double-edged swords to the way Valtan is designed. Having a raid being able to be soloed can be super nice, however, if it's done too much, it can feel like the relevance to your teammates and the importance of coordination just isn't really there. I think raid design needs to consider the relevance of teamwork in its content. On the hyperbolic end, if a raid is all about individual execution with little communication between teammates, it kind of cheapens the experience of having an 8-person team in the first place. Thankfully, I don't think Valtan quite gets there, but I'm excited to see, or I'm excited to know that it seems like Vicus will have some more traditional team execution mechanics compared to Valtan's heavier weighting on personal execution. On top of that, because Valtan is very completable, even if someone dies in the first breaking the armor phase of the fight even, finishing someone's lockout on a run that they didn't even really get to play feels super duper bad. This experience is magnified by the fact that the only Legion raid we have right now is Valtan. So imagine you're waiting all week for your lockout to finish, then you jump into Valtan, you die in the armor break phase, and the rest of your team finishes a fight in the next like 15 minutes or so, and then you're locked out for the rest of the week and you're back to waiting again, and that was your complete Legion raid experience for the week. I feel like that's super sad. That's really underwhelming. That being said, I think this is all like a balance. I don't think all fights should be tuned to the point where if even a single person dies at any point, it's an automatic reset necessarily. I feel like these things should be designed with much more gray. So there's some amount of personal agency that's weighted against a team responsibility, and these things can be something that is adjusted from fight to fight to give a lot more color. Valtan, I think, is incredibly fun and rewarding from a personal agency perspective, but I'm looking forward to raids that also have more team dependency too. So, where does that leave us with Valtan? My opinion is that I can see why everyone seems to hold this raid in such high regard. Valtan is an excellent entry-level fight. Its progression experience for most groups is phenomenal, and is an excellent demonstration for how to begin playing Lost Ark's combat system with more attention. You're not just randomly attacking or walking around, but you're doing things with purpose, you're watching the enemy's moves, and you're reacting to it. I feel like most of the potential downside that can be felt from Valtan long-term can be alleviated by simply having the other Legion raids released. By the time we're doing Kakul, Vicus, and Valtan, there should be such a diversity of raid mechanics and experiences that the weaknesses of any single Legion raid kind of be overshadowed by the different experiences of the others. Valtan gets like, I would say like an 8 out of 10 for me on a meaningless scale of my subjective opinion. I'm looking forward to the next Legion raid, whenever that releases. Really excited to play Vicus. And I'll probably check back in with my impressions once I've done some amount of it. Until then, visit my stream if you want. Thanks for watching. Cheers. Nice. Easy peasy. Just like that, my friends.